bezuka demoza kulia. Rande de keduza kande broza kadine. Henzo saboria kida mambros katula. Zendo kabozi kademo rabo sekulia. Hembresu kataburia sizo kabode breso kadina. Hanze kulia manze sebori hande kobida brosa kadinia. Mezo zabori hande de kulabosa, hande kulabo asize keluza kambe dubra sigo da moze zebolia, hande rusa katira si katura babasi kalebo zabona rise sebo da brosa kula. Just exercise your spirit in the presence of the Lord. Hasezi kotamozazila. Zande kula mabre su katore posa kula brose sepoda bose kula brabasi katuzia. Hezo kadura bosile keduna zize kula mande bosa kulia. Habise keluzazi kamone brosa kalise zekedunia. Meso sakole brosa kalize sebrosa kula mande bosi hati dabati hale bosale. Handes kutarabosh katuri habos katari bosh katuria hazeze keturia mandes kubada brose ketura mande besu gatilia mahusa kadezi sambresu katamo zekoli hande bruza kadebrosa kulabosa hinde bresu kademo rabosa kalideru sakodima sipros kateboza polabadilia. Happy seketu rababa shile medo brasosa kade breso sabo de boze boda mariza. Habezu kade rebo bosiko da boziko taboza katua sekote beruze. Hande zuki hade brusa kade boza badia labo de boseku da breso katuzi. Meso sabo rabakabato hase sobati balakata kabaturia. Reso sakuda kabote bori haso sekore bote bokaturi hababashikatura. Maseze keboda ambresu katabo zekotamoze. Hi preskuda mazebodi maradu dede ligaduza kadebo zekoda kobadira bakabadu kaboda boro bakuada brosego lebeduna nakalabadua. Rasize keboda bokadina kadebo sketura bokatu ketekebezu katakabarua. Rasize ketuka baduna zako teko badia kaduza kateke bedoria. Mekuda kode ketuka segete kebeduna zango takodi hase sekuda kapatu hase. Rezo katuka teke bedua. Renze sepota bokati hase sepori kaduna zako teko badima nabaru ha 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 ha. Hase zibaduni hazi zonge potepolia. Mezuze geduna rahuta kambos keturambo debosaila kateli hazize bonabaria. Mesude de bonabo de boze kedura mande pokatura basuka de brose zobina gele bodambo zakula. Mezuke de brose kodimande pozigo da bosekuda barusa. Mekuta kabo de presuga de bozakuta kapatura mande ketu kapore pote pokati hasike de kepeturia. Mekute keporiza katura pakuda kopatiria. Zekute kepoda prosketuna sanda kaduza kate poseko te prosoko to kopati habakabadua. Rezo katuria zakuda kabra papaskote kebreba kabatua sekoda hila kande sehula kande seli hapo sakulia. Meseketunas katu seketo kabote breskota kobalabada badua. Reso kadula poseko tebrosa kalabatuka teke bedura pakabadole koteke betuka teke beduna kata halakataki. Hegu teke tiso kande pokatu hase kota kapadua. Rando dokatu sekendo kapote brose kote komina kuta kabatuka teke beduria. Mekoda kobras kuteke breskutariza kaduka teke betuka kabatua. Mekute kobresuka da kabrakata kabatura kata kabrakuda kabaturia. Hezozo katura pakapatura posketo kabrakata kabaturia. Megete kebreba kapatua zekote kebreba kapatua zete kete kebreba kapatua rapakata kaparua sekete kebreba kapatua Mekute kebroska tuga tirabas kutaka brabas kutaka patua. Zekutaka pote broska toka brahuke tete breba kabaturia. Zekote kote kopita boza. Zekote kobrasuka te boripos katura poske torabas kutaka brabas katoka bahura pate polakuta. Zekote kebreba kabatori hasa katura baskote kebreba kabraba kabaturia. Mekuta kabraskote kebreba kabaturia. Zekute breso sapolabo sekota brosketora bahuse sekotaisa saborabo te bokatoze. Hadete ketura basike te gobadia. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Kaseso bandesu katabezo kaleberuza hande prezo kapote prezo kadina sakute kebre baskatura pakute kebre bakapaturia reso sakute kebote posekuta kabraba baskatuga dege kebeduria risko dege breba kabraba kute kebeturia Jesus sakote kebre bakabatua reposketura bashikete boskatuzi azezeboda boza nende zokateri sakuraba sukaturia rande de ketuka bote posekuta kabadua resokaturia zokate pori kota kabrakute keberua katuria resokatura basikota bose seborapo katua rabashikata kabaduria Zendo kabizo katira maso katebosa kula brose kutakabodia rete tebuze kedurambo zakula Habe sukate broske turamande boze katura mamas katuria rande kete koba di braskuta mezu sabore bode boli katuza sabora bode bosia he boskadina siga tabose keduna bora bode bolia side de bora bode bolia Mekutabos katuri hebos katune sendike tumia shiloba dimos katine bezu kategoria randede ketua ribos ketura manse sekura bashikatua ratu keteko brasi ketominos kalia sezu sapuli batu hasese ketulia. Thank you, Jesus. You are wonderful. You are worthy, O Lord. 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 In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Can you guys hear me? I need a feedback. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that feedback. I welcome everyone again, those online and those that are on Zoom. When I say online, I meant YouTube. Those that are following us on YouTube, I welcome everyone to the Discovery Place. This is a space where we help each other to heal, to grow, and to thrive. Our assignment is to rebuild lives or restore hopes, rebuild lives, and raise leaders that will carry God's heart for transformation to their communities, to their nations, and different sphere of influence that you may find yourself. We started a teaching on rebuilding the circle of life and we have been able to explore some qualities of connections. Now, the power of connection is very vital when it comes to rebuilding the circle of life, because connection is a foundational need to our existence. And if you have been following us from the beginning, we were able to lay the foundation. But if not, please feel free to check the recordings of the past modules so that you can be up to speed. Today we are going to dive deeper into the qualities of connections that we began to explore last week. Last week we were able to look into 4 qualities of connections. And this week we would explore 2 more of those. Um, Let me share my screen and we can take it from there. Just a moment. Oh, I need someone to confirm if, okay, wait, I need to try something here. Okay, could you confirm if you're able to see my screen? To be sure. See. Okay, perfect. Oh, not yet. Okay, perfect. Perfect. MA, I saw not yet. Are you able to see the screen now? Okay, majority can see my screen, so we are good to go. Rebuilding the circle of life. Okay, perfect. Qualities of divine of connection rather. Now, if you followed us last week, if you were present last week, I was able to establish the model of connection that we are looking at in order to isolate the qualities that are necessary for connection in every form of relationship, either romantic relationships, familiar relationships, spiritual relationships, or whatever form of relationship that we may find ourselves. These qualities are very important in order for us to establish a deep connection with whatever it is we are, or whoever it is we are trying to connect with. And we use the Trinity as a model, and our reason for using the Trinity is because um, we have come to understand that we are created not after our own kind, but after the God kind. It is then necessary for us to look up to God in order to understand ourselves. That our exploration of God is not just an attempt to know God, but is also an attempt to discover ourselves. So it's a journey of discovery. And we began to explore the qualities that exist within the Trinity for which they were able to establish such a mysterious connection that has become an object of argument in different quarters. And the mystery of the Trinity, as a matter of fact, is not a puzzle that we are trying to solve, is a pattern that we are trying to emulate. And in order for us to emulate this pattern, we need to isolate the qualities that makes for the kind of connection that we see among the Godhead. Now, I will give us a brief summary of what we treated last week, which was the second module of discourse, rebuilding the circle of life. So we discussed the qualities of connection and isolated a few qualities. The first one was unity without conformity. That unity is not an attempt to clone the other parties to become like yourself or to clone you to become like the other party. It is a unity that exists despite the uniqueness and the distinct role of every parties that are involved in this connection. And the second one was shared vision and mission. That if there is uniqueness, there is a distinct role, different role that each party needs to play in unity. It then means that what sustains that unity is shared vision, the ability to sustain the same vision, everyone bringing their uniqueness in order to accomplish this vision through their distinct roles. You see that? And then we also explored mutual love and honor. No, permit my typo error there. Mutual love and honor. That shared vision and mutual honor are the ingredients that makes for unity without conformity. And also we looked at submission without inferiority. And we also looked at submission as a strategic partnership. Now, for those of us that were not at the family table, the subject of submission was really the object of focus at the family tables. And we had questions and some concerns that were expressed even after the meeting, some life examples that people presented. And just so you know, we are not ignoring many of the things that we discussed. I have noted that down, and we will be able to dive deeper into the subject of submission, especially as a strategic partnership in marriage and in whatever relationship that we find ourselves. So I just thought I would put that out so that we can look forward to it. But today we are going to move forward and look into other qualities that makes for connection. And the first one I want us to look into today is connection. Connection. Connection happens to be one of the most vital qualities of communication. Sorry, communication happens to be one of the most vital qualities of connection, and it serves as the bridge between hearts, minds, and expectations. Now, I need you to follow me, please. What do I mean by the bridge between heart, minds, and experiences? Now, I believe every one of us, we have had to, pass through a bridge or over a bridge at one point or the other in our lives, either through a vehicle, either through hiking, or in whatever, context it was. But you realize that the assignment of that bridge is to connect one point to another that ordinarily, maybe without the bridge, there wouldn't have been that connection. So bridge allowed that passage, okay? And when we are looking at communication as a bridge, we are actually talking about the bridge that makes for heart-to-heart connection, that makes for mind-to-mind connection, that makes for experience-to-experience connection. As much as you know the state of your heart, or I want to believe you do, as much as you know the thoughts that are going through your mind and the experiences that you've gone through, it is impossible for the other parties or party that you are in relationship with or trying to connect with to know the same. And if you want to bring them into that reality, then communication becomes a tool that will help you to accomplish that. This is how communication serves as a bridge. Okay. Now, why is communication so important in connection or in a relationship, as the case may be? Why is it so important? The first point I want to mention here is that communication helps to build understanding. It helps to build what? Understanding. And it is important to note that, because what that really means is that it is through communication that you are able to express your thoughts, your emotions, and as a matter of fact, your needs in a way that the other parties would be able to understand you. And now, I need to also clarify that when we talk about communication, we are not talking about talking. Talking is part of communication, but it's not all there is when it comes to communication. And what I mean by that is communication is not one-sided. Okay? It has to be mutual. You decode you encode an information, and the other party must be able to decode it. Their inability to decode it has made that to be short of communication. We could call it speaking, right? You are talking, but the other party being able to understand it is what makes it communication. So there has to be mutual understanding. Okay, so the assignment of communication is to build understanding. And when this understanding is built through the expression of your thoughts, your mind, your emotions, as a matter of fact, your needs, then you realize that because of this mutual expression, there is going to be a form of safety and trust that will exist between or within the relationship. You see that? So communication helps to create safety and trust. Also, it helps to align expectations, right? Via communication, we are able to, express what we want, the things that we expect, our needs, and all of that. And if by any means there is misalignment, then it means there is a possibility for disappointment or disconnection. So communication is one of those tools that we use to align our expectations in a relationship. Okay, so that and it is important to also add that when I'm talking about communication, there is a form of consistency that is needed. I will still go into that later. I just want to put it out right now. Consistent communication, healthy communication, it's important to have that in order to align expectations. And I said consistent because I've had a situation where um, individuals that are in relationship communicated their expectations at some point, but because there is no opportunity, or maybe they decided not to revisit it, or because of the situations of life, they got, involved in different things. One party was still moving ahead with the expectations that were set out at the initial conversation. But then the other party, because of what was happening around them, had moved on from the initial expectations. And now there are new expectations that had been set from this party without carrying along the other party. So it results into conflict because one thinks, oh, but I'm still following what the expectations that we set. The other party is like, no, no, this is not what it is. And the reason for that was because there was no consistent communication. So when expectations are aligned, then it has to be revisited just to be sure that there is no misalignment along the way. Okay? Communication also helps to resolve conflicts. It helps to resolve conflict, which I mentioned earlier. Consistent communication helps to resolve conflict, especially in situations where there is misalignment of expectations, in situations where there are assumptions, because when communication is lacking, then assumption would grow, it would thrive. An assumption is just an attempt from one person to guess what is in the mind of the other party, what they are thinking, how they are feeling, and then trying to meet those expectations through their own assumptions. Most times it results into conflict because it may not be in alignment with what the other party is actually experiencing. So in situations like this, communication becomes a tool that we can use to resolve conflict. And then communication also deepens emotional intimacy. I mean, think about it. If you can express your thoughts, if you can express how you feel, if you can express what you want, what you need through communication, you realize that the other party that is involved in that relationship, as time goes on, especially if this expression is mutual, you realize that there will be an increase in the depth of intimacy that you have with one another. If you are following, can you give me a yes in the comment section? Please give me a yes in the comment section if you are following. Perfect. Okay, perfect. Now, if we understand that, then we need to move forward to, okay, it looks like my screen is frozen. Give me, oh, perfect. The key ingredients for connecting through communication. What are the ingredients? Now that we know why it is important for us to adopt communication as a quality for connection, especially in relationships, then we also need to highlight some of the key ingredients that will help us to establish, a very deep and what's the word now? Consistent communication with our partners in this relationship. Now, the first one is that there has to be honesty. Honesty is very important in communication. The second one is transparency. And I need to tell us the difference between the two because it appears to be similar, but there is a little difference there. When we talk about honesty, honesty actually means to, express how you feel or what you think, especially when you are being asked. You see that? When you are asked, oh, how are you doing, for example, um, then you can now express how you feel or what is going through your mind. Maybe I just feel so down today, or it's been a lot of struggle today and all that. Rather than just saying, well, I'm okay, I'm fine. Right. So honesty brings you to that place where when you are being asked a question, then you respond truthfully. So honesty brings you to that place of being truthful. But when we talk about transparency, transparency takes it a step further. In transparency, you offer to share how you feel or what you think, maybe about a situation or your partner when you are not being asked. You take the initiative to share. So it's a different thing to be asked. Now, people ask questions when they feel the need to ask, whereas you find yourself in situations where maybe the other party, maybe the partner, does not see the need or doesn't see the need to ask. That's where transparency comes in. Okay. So that you is an opportunity for you to onboarding I mean, when we check other ingredients, I'll be able to bring perspective to the two. Then the third ingredient is active listening. Active listening means that number one, you are present. Number two, you are listening not to respond, but to understand. I hope that makes sense. You are listening to understand, not just to respond, right? Um, Many times we find ourselves in situations where most of our listening is so that we can respond. And many of these response can come out being defensive, can come out blaming others and all that, although the person is speaking, trying to explain, but what you are trying to deduct from what they are getting across to you is to pick more points as your own punchline, as a weapon to hit back, so that by all means you can be right and then the other party can apologize. That's not what active listening is about. In active listening, you really want to understand the person much more than just replying or giving a response. You see, that is a key ingredient when it comes to connecting through communication. So, communication is not just about talking, listening is part of communication, and active listening for that matter. Empathy. Empathy helps you to be able to relate with the humanity of the person you are in relationship with. It takes you beyond just their strength. It takes you far deeper to see the humanity there, to be able to feel what they are feeling, to put yourself in their shoes and ask yourself, if this happens to me, how will I feel? You see that? Now, there are situations most times when, especially when you are the one that did something to another person, it is really hard to see from the other person's perspective, because many times you want to prove a point out that what you did is right, how that you have your reason for doing what you did, how that, as a matter of fact, how you expect the other party to respond, and all of those put together. Whereas if you can just flip the table and put yourself in the shoes of the victim or the receiver, maybe you can understand how they feel and ask yourself, if I am in this position, how will I feel? It helps you to understand the other party, and it helps the communication to be more prosperous and produce, a greater advantage in that relationship. Now, finally, timing. Timing is very important. It is not enough to be honest. It is not enough to be transparent. Your timing is very important. Honesty is not needed in a situation where someone is going through um, maybe a mental breakdown, for example. And when I say honesty is not needed, I'm not saying that's the time to lie. I'm actually saying the time to express what you think and how you feel is very important. As much as you want to do that, you need to ask yourself, is this the right time? Is this other person able to receive this feedback at this point in time? Is this a good time to share what is on my mind? Is this a good time to share how I feel? And it is interesting that many times we tend to approach timing just by observing the other party and, see their expression and all that. and waiting for that moment where it looks like they're in the good mood, and then you can step forward to be honest and share whatever it is you want to share, or to be transparent and share whatever it is you want to share. But you can actually take it a step further. Instead of carrying the burden of just observation, you can ask a question. Is this a good time to talk? Is this the right time to have a conversation about what happened yesterday or what happened earlier today? Timing is actually very important. Okay. And of course, why we talk about timing, because many of these things, it feels like maybe the burden is just on one party. It applies to both. Other times, the timing, maybe the other party is the one that wants to, they are the one that wants to have this conversation, and it's not the right time for you. You also need to learn how to hold space. Do not just reject or ignore. It's as simple as, oh, this is not a good time. I will let you know when is the right time. Or is it okay if we have this conversation at a later time? As simple as that sounds, that would be bring about a big change when it comes to communication as a quality for connection and also to resolve conflict. I hope that makes sense. So these are some scriptures for those of us that are wondering, because we are using the Trinity as a model, right? And so it is necessary to provide some context via the scripture that would help us also see how communication finds expression among the Godhead. For example, in this scripture, John chapter 12, verse 49 to 50, you will see, I don't want to read through that. For those of us that are interested in the scriptural reference, please, that's there for you. That's another scripture. And also that Genesis 1:26 also speaks a lot about communication. You were able to see transparency, honesty there, because they gather together and express their mind as touching the vision and how to execute that vision. You would also see it there. So the lessons I want us to take home. Now, what I did today is the two qualities I want to show us today. They are very, very connected. And at the end of this presentation, there will be some key truth that I would highlight for us as a take home that I'm hoping each and every one of us will hold on to and continue to remember as we navigate the relationships that we find ourselves in, to the end that we can further deepen the connection that had been established. Trust is built when there is honesty and transparency, and relationships and communities break down when secrecy or concealment enters. Now, some of us grew in an environment where secrecy is a big thing. Being able to, you hide what is on your mind because of maybe the fear of judgment, rejection, betrayal, and all kinds of reasons that have further solidified us adopting that culture of secrecy and hiding things that are happening in and around our lives. It is important to note that when we embrace secrecy, it makes it difficult to build trust. Because when you are trapped in the culture of secrecy, when I say culture now, I'm talking about situations where, there is this belief that you have adopted. If I share what is happening in my life, other people might begin to talk about it and share it with many other people. Or maybe if I tell people about the good things that are happening in my life, it might breed envy, hatred, or maybe because you've heard over and over again, parents, friends, family, about, their experience with betrayal. And because of that, you decide to keep things to yourself. You realize that it will be difficult for you to establish a trusting relationship with people around you, because instead of honesty, you will embrace secrecy. Instead of transparency, you will embrace what? Concealment. So trust is built when there is honesty and transparency. And also, it is important to note that relationships thrive when there is honest, transparent communication. And learning to speak the truth in love and to listen well is very vital. And this takes us to the next quality, which is purposeful vulnerability. Purposeful vulnerability. What do I mean by that? This is an intentional choice. Excuse me. It's an intentional choice to let others see what is really inside you, the real you, right? To be authentic is a choice that you need to make. It's not something that comes naturally, especially at the initial phase. You have to be intentional that this is how I want to approach this relationship. These are the choices I want to make in this relationship. And that includes letting others to see what is real inside of you or about you. And that includes your thoughts, your feelings, your fears, your struggles, your desires, and even your past. You see that intentional choice to let others that you're in relationship with to see your thoughts, to know about your feelings, your fears, your struggles, your desires, and your past. Now, I need to put this out. What purposeful vulnerability is not. Because if we do not set these boundaries, I often see that people take this to the extreme, all in the name of at least I'm vulnerable. And it becomes a weapon that they use for control and dominance over another person. So, what purposeful vulnerability is not? Number one, is not trauma dumping. The other party or parties, they are not a ground for you to dump your traumatic experiences. I've had experience where an individual reached out, expressed their traumatic experiences, and then vanished in thin air. So I was like, so what's the point of sharing all of this? You see that? You just find someone, oh, this is an opportunity to dump my experience, my trauma, and all of that. Now, the reason why we need to be careful with this is not just about us dumping it on another person, but we need to understand that this can be traumatic to the other person that is listening to you or experiencing what you are expressing. There is something called vicarious trauma. It is a secondary trauma that people that either witness a traumatic experience or have a secondary contact. Secondary in this case would mean you sharing your traumatic experience or just dumping it on them, and they do not have the emotional capacity to adequately digest it. It becomes traumatic for them, and this results into vicarious trauma. I would encourage us to look into that vicarious trauma. Please look into it. And so when we talk about purposeful vulnerability, we are not talking about you dumping your trauma on another person, thereby inflicting secondary trauma on them. That's why the word purposeful is behind vulnerability. Secondly, is not an attempt to manipulate the other party, to what do we call it? Guilt trip them. It is not meant to be a weapon to control another, make them feel bad about their behavior and put them down because of how you feel. You need to be able to separate how you feel from the other person. It is very important. You make me feel this. Now you have drawn the other person into this matter, your situation, right? Because at that point, what you need is really help, not just to share story. There is a purpose behind your vulnerability. Now, if you make the person that is meant to help you, make them feel like they are the one that inflicted this on you, you have automatically put them down, thereby disempowering them from helping you or giving you the support that you need. So you need to be able to separate your feelings from the other party. Now, it is possible that they did something and the emotional response that came from you to what they did was not the best for you. Okay? This is how I felt when this happened. Not this is you make me feel like this. They are two different things. You see that? So being able to understand this takes you away from that extreme of using vulnerability as a tool of manipulation. Also, oversharing without trust. This is a situation where you overshare your experience, what you are going through with an individual or a group of people that you have not established trust with. Now, the challenge with that is, as a matter of fact, it results into sometimes rejection, judgment. Because think about it, you are sharing with someone that you do not necessarily trust. So there is a possibility of judgment. There is a possibility of betrayal. There is a possibility of rejection and all of that. And this is one of the reasons why people struggle to share their experience. That even when they find a trusted person that is willing to support them, because of this oversharing, they would automatically withdraw back into their shell. So it is important for us to know that vulnerability doesn't mean you should share your story, your experience, how you feel, what you think with everyone. Passive venting. This is also very interesting. Now, this is similar to the first one, trauma dumping. Um, but the word passive is very important here. When we talk about purposeful vulnerability, we are not just talking about you sharing how you feel or what you think or sharing your experience and all of that. It shouldn't end with sharing. Even if it is with a trusted person, it should not end with sharing. There has to be a purpose behind it. There has to be a goal, either healing, freedom, restoration, redemption, whatever the goal is, it has to be purposeful. Okay? When you just share without a purpose, then you have not achieved anything. You see that? So these are the things that purposeful vulnerability is not about. I believe we understand that. So now, why is purposeful vulnerability important? If you are following me, can you please put it in the chat? Put it in the chat, please. I guess I need to move a little faster. Just put a yes in the chat. If there's anything that stands out to you, put it in the chat as well. It will be much appreciated. Put it in the chat. All right. Why is purposeful vulnerability important? Why does it really matters? Okay. Now, it is important to know that vulnerability opens the heart for true connection. True connection never exists on the surface. If we want true connection, we need to go beyond the surface and go deeper. Okay? And going deeper actually means opening your heart. You see that? And that's what vulnerability is about. It opens your heart to embrace true connection. Now, when what it means to help to open your heart means you want the other person to see your heart. You've not opened your heart if the other party have not seen it. Your adventure of heart opening is only completed when the other party is able to see your heart. And the easiest way to do that is through communication. You see that? That's why I said both qualities we are going to be exploring, they are closely related to each other. Okay. So number one, when it is important because it helps to build trust. When you show your heart for the other person to see, is an invitation for that other person to be safe with theirs. Someone has to initiate it. You see that? Someone has to initiate it. And when you take the initiative to open your heart or to show the other person your heart, to tell them how you feel, what is going on with you, what's on your mind, your needs, and all of those things, when you take the initiative to express it so that the other person can actually see your heart, then it's like extending an invitation to them to also be safe with you when it comes to opening up their heart. Now, this is a risk, but it's a risk that is worth taking because without vulnerability, there is no growth. You see that? Secondly, it invites empathy. It lets the other party to be able to relate with your humanity, not just your strength. You see that? Some of us, we are maybe mentors, we are leaders, we have children, we are parents, and all of that, and we find ourselves in spaces where we need to be at our best at every point in time, and our strength is what we showcase most of the times for others to see. And by reason of that, we are painting an image, a picture for the other party that sometimes could be intimidating to them and not create that safe space where they can actually tell you how they feel. I've had people ask me questions like, do you also feel down? I mean, maybe because they've seen me in situations where I give expression to my strength. you know, my own initiative to be able to express how I feel and also to let them know that I can relate with feelings of being down or not at your best, and all that helps them to see that this is not a superhuman. This is a human being that has weaknesses. You see that? So it's an invitation. So it actually brings, because if that does not happen, you realize that it will be difficult for people to be empathetic towards you because they feel like you are able to figure everything out or you figured everything out. So there is no point to worry about that person. They figured everything out. You see that? So when we are intentional about being vulnerable purposefully, we also invite what? Empathy. Now, this third point is really important. It helps to release shame. Shame loses its power when your story is met with grace. Shame thrives in secrecy. Shame is an identity that is forged when there is consistent feeling of guilt. You see that? Something happens, maybe a conflict, and you feel guilty about it, or you've been made to feel guilty about a certain thing, and that was a consistent experience for you. Before you know it, shame becomes an identity for you. An identity that brings you into that secrecy that I was talking about the other time. But when you find yourself in a relationship where you have established trust and you can be vulnerable and you share your story, and that story is responded to with grace, you realize that shame will lose its power. And many different people express or expresses shame in different ways. And there are four major ways that it can be expressed. Okay. Number one, it could be through avoidance. Number two, it could be through what's it called? Living in denial. Avoidance means you isolate yourself, you withdraw to yourself. You are living in denial means you are using other activities as a coping mechanism to distract you from that shame. Number three means by attacking each other, by attacking another person rather. Now, sometimes when you see people attacking you, it is not always because they are bad. Many times it's a symptoms of shame that they are experiencing. And the final expression of shame is people being critical about themselves, self-criticism, attacking themselves. And one of the ways we releases this shame is by having that safe space where we can actually express how we feel without the fear of judgment or rejection. And also where we can actually share the experiences that resulted into this identity. Also strengthens intimacy. It deepens closeness, especially when it is mutual. I think that is self-explanatory, so I don't want to go into that because of our time. Then it models courage. It takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable. It shows others that it is safe to be real with you as well. If you are the one initiating it, it means you are very brave and courageous. It takes that much to be the initiator. And when you are able to initiate it, you are actually sending a message to the other party that they are actually safe with you. They can be authentic in in your presence rather. They can be themselves. They can be real in your presence. You see that? These are scriptures that speak to that purposeful vulnerability. The one I love the most is in Matthew 26, Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. You know, he was able to express how he felt, deeply grieved, even to the point of death. He expressed the sorrow that was within him. He didn't just express it to his brethren, he also expressed it in the presence of God. You see that? Now, what happens when there is absence of purposeful vulnerability? What happens when there is absence of this vulnerability? It creates an environment where shame and guilt thrives. You see that? That's the kind of environment it creates. And I put it here that when emotional intimacy and vulnerability are missing in relationships, either with God or with other people, what often take their place? I'm going to show us the list of what takes their place. Number one is performance. It means that relationship will be at the surface level. I believe many of us can relate with this. We can't have a deep connection with the people. Maybe your co-workers, think about it. It's just a performance-based relationship for most of them. There will be secrecy for fear of judgment because of the absence of purposeful vulnerability. There will be internal isolation where you do not really express how you feel. the lack of emotional expression. You are feeling a certain way, but you show off in a different way or show up in a different way, just to feel among and to be part of whatever it is that is happening, but that's not really how you feel internally. Also, guilt remains unprocessed and shame becomes an identity. And finally, I want to share with us some key truth as a takeaway from this module. Some key truth that I do not want us to forget. The first one is that connection deepens when we listen to understand, not just to reply. Please never forget that. There is no real connection without honesty and transparency. Honesty is being truthful when you are being asked. Transparency means even when you are not asked, you offer to express how you feel or what you think about whatever it is, or maybe even something related to yourself. Healthy communication allows for hard conversations. Hard conversations, for example, in situations where there are conflicts. Many times we tend to want to brush it away, not to talk through it. Whereas conflict is not a bad thing if we approach it in an appropriate way. As a matter of fact, conflict is a window of opportunity for growth. You see that conflict is necessary in relationship. It's necessary because without it, there may be no growth. So having hard conversation in a healthy way is very important. True connection requires emotional risk because one person has to initiate this and you do not know how the other person will respond to it. So many people struggle, which I mentioned earlier, because of the fear of judgment and rejection, because of the fear of, what's it called, of betrayal, and some of the cultural beliefs that we have adopted over the years. Okay, and because of that, we are not willing to take the risk that is necessary to launch us into the next phase of our life, talking about growth now. So true connection requires emotional risk. Your healing is often tied to your willingness to be authentic, to be real. You cannot continue to live out a different identity and expect healing to take place. In order to identify with your true identity, to embrace authenticity, then we need to be real. We need to be able to express how we feel. We need to be able to talk about what is happening or what had happened in our life in the past that is impacting our current experiences. The more you risk being known, the more you make space to be loved. Remember, I said the other time that we are not expected to show up in our strength every time. The revelation of our humanity in relationship create a space to be loved. God is also vulnerable. God reveals his vulnerability. For example, God told us the things he could not reject: a contrite heart and a contrite spirit and a broken heart. The Lord do not reject. I am a jealous God. All of those things is God being vulnerable because it is required in relationship in order to create space to be loved. You see that? And finally, you don't owe your full story to everyone, but you need to share it with someone. For those of us that have been living in pain and that code of secrecy because you are afraid that if maybe my spouse or people know about what is happening in my life, They might perceive me as a bad person. They might see me as someone that is not good for anything, not enough. They might put me down. They might break off the relationship that they have with me. As genuine as your excuses might be, you need to understand that you are killing yourself even more. You need to share it with someone that gives you that safe space where you can be yourself, where you can be real. I hope that makes sense. And if we understand that, I would like to end with this quote: communication makes connection possible, but it is vulnerability that makes it meaningful. Please never forget that. Communication makes it possible, but vulnerability makes it meaningful. Never forget that. And I'm going to draw this session to a close at this point. I know we've gone past our usual time. I apologize for that, but I hope we have been able to pick one or two things. There will be room for question and answer at the family table for those of us that will be a part of that. For those that are following on YouTube and you are wondering what is the family table about, is a closed meeting where we have heart-to-heart connection and share what is on our mind. It's a safe space where we heal, grow, and thrive together. So if you want to be a part of that, you can put that in the comment section, and we will send the link that would enable you to be a part of this community going forward. So can we just take a moment, just 1 minute, to reflect on what we have discussed about connection, communication, and purposeful vulnerability as part of the qualities of connection.